Have you ever had a time in your life when someone told you something, gave you some kind of news, some kind of update, and you were just shocked? You said, I had no idea. You're just in complete shock about whatever this was. Maybe it's something going on in someone's personal life, maybe it's something in the news, whatever it is. And you're just completely shocked, couldn't believe that you were not aware of whatever this was. I have to wonder right now how many people would experience that if they started listening to different information that is out there. We're going to call today's episode, Are We Aware? I'm going to go through some things that we may or may not be aware of, but friends, until we are aware enough to know what's going on, how do we know how to fight against it? We don't need to watch the news nonstop, but we need to be aware of what is going on, because when lines are being crossed that you are no longer okay with, I'm no longer okay with, like we have to know what's going on. And when a lot of these things aren't being talked about by mainstream sources, we we need to be aware. So I'm just going to go through some of the things I feel like are important at this moment in time. Are we aware that the vast majority of the information we receive comes from a very small number of people, like a handful of people who own all the companies and places that send us that information from? Are we aware of that? Are we aware that crime last year, violent crime, went up almost 5% from the year before? 80,000 more violent crimes than the year before. Many of you, like me, like immediately know why that's happening. If you're not sure why that's happening, we got to find some new news sources. Are we aware that our kids are being taught very different things in school than many of us were? They're not being taught a lot about our history, not being taught how blessed we are to be Americans and live in this place, and to appreciate this place, and to know what people have fought and died for generations, so that we can have what we have. Are we aware that our children are not learning those things? Are we aware that our children aren't learning much about alternative types of governments and the dangers of those other types of governments out there that a lot of people in this world would love for us to be living in? We don't want that, okay? People don't really know these things as much anymore because over the years they've been watered down significantly. Are we aware that they changed how they calculate inflation several years ago? That these numbers that we're getting were like, yeah, okay, you may be giving me that number, but my grocery bill has gone up way more than that, right? Well, it's because they changed how they calculate inflation. An article I just read said that if they were using previous calculations to calculate it now, it would be like 18%. Okay, that makes more sense. Okay. Are we aware that people, even preschoolers in certain areas, are being exposed to gender information, such as we watched a video at church one day that has been created to show kids that most children in their lives experiment with their gender, and they may feel like a girl today and a boy tomorrow. Like kids as young as preschool at school are being exposed to these things. This does not include whatever those kids are watching while unsupervised on YouTube or wherever. They're browsing and wasting time because parents are tired and busy and trying to make supper and whatever. Okay, kids as young as preschool are getting these things at school. Are we aware that in California, they are allowed to give children sex change drugs at school without parents' permission? At school. I'm talking like minors, okay? Are we aware that in Minnesota, if a child wants to go through the sex change stuff, that if the parents don't agree, the state is allowed to take control and intervene, take control of the child, as if we had a child abuse situation going on? Are we aware? Are we aware that the government is hiring people not just on qualifications, but so that we fit in all these boxes? So there's big concerns about what's going on in our law enforcement agencies, and that in a lot of cases, the most qualified people are not being hired because we have to hire people based on skincare and orientations of various sorts, okay? Are we aware that money, big, big amounts of money, are funding most of these things that we don't like, that we are not as supportive, the things that are trying to tear our democracy apart? Okay, billionaires are funding these things, and huge, huge corporations, okay? We need to be aware that where we spend our money travels. It travels. We, this may be a different talk on a different day. We have to support companies that we believe hold our same values, because when we're not, then that money just gets passed on for that nice brand of shoes that you want to wear those shoes because it fits in, or you want to watch that streaming program on your TV or whatever. Like, we need to be shopping small and finding companies that have the same values as ours. Are we aware of what's going on in our FBI right now with like it's out of control, and people like us could be the next ones who are under fire, like people who are innocent and law-abiding citizens doing good get attacked for various things. I've got some of these resources on my website if you want to go look at it sometime, but like, are we aware? Are we aware that, I believe this is out there, but like, the dangers of what could happen if our court system gets changed? Our court system right now, our court system is the only thing protecting law-abiding people like you and me, people who choose to pray on a public sidewalk and get arrested, somebody who was reading a Bible at an activist rally, he gets beat up, he gets arrested, he goes to jail, he has to fight the law. Like our courts, there are so many of these things going on. You're flying a political flag and you get drugged through years worth of court battles and hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees. Like, the courts are the only thing protecting us. We must choose the side that is not going to ruin our court system, because the moment our court system goes down, we're not in a democracy anymore, friends. So are we aware, and do we know which sides are promoting these different things? Are we aware, I believe it's 11 states, there's an abortion law on the ballot. It is my understanding that most or potentially all of these are constitutional amendments in the state. So once they are changed, it is nearly impossible to change them back. Are we aware that most or all of these don't put time limits on when that happens? So it's not like saying it has to be in the first 6 weeks or the first however many. No time limit. Okay. What does it look like when we take care of babies a week before the mom is due, or right before she's due? What does that look like, and whose hands is that blood on when you and I are the ones who have the power to make the decisions for our government? You and I, it's not in my state, but when we get to vote for these things, the people are voting. Whose hands does that fall on? I would argue not just the hands of the woman who's doing it. Okay, are we aware? Are we aware? We have got to do something, friends. Okay, we have to get the information from different sources. We need to turn off the mass media, the social media, the big news companies. Turn them off. Find the small guys. Find some small guys you respect, and people like you who are reporting the news. Like, they probably have values like you, right? Like, when I watch that news, I'm like, I get the creeps from these people. Like, I can't even. Many of you are with me, and we have to help others. We have to help others who are confused and trying to work through the nonsense because it's confusing and it's all done on purpose to confuse you, get you not to vote, think your opinion doesn't matter, think that it's not worth voting because they're both worthless, whatever you think. Somebody had posted a comment on one of my videos a while back that is a quote from Pastor Martin Niemöller. And I don't do anything to instill fear, friends. I am here to do the opposite, is my intention, to give us productive things we can do to respond to the world we're living in and try to make a difference. And we have to remember, I was just listening, y'all have been sending me lots of interesting things to watch and listen to. And I was just listening to a sermon, and he was talking about how when things look impossible in life and when the enemy is fighting extra hard, like when the attacks are nonstop, that may be right before God is choosing to show up. Okay, have you ever had anything really amazing happening in your life or getting ready to happen or like just happened, and then like all these horrible things start happening? Yes, it's the spiritual warfare I've been talking about. Like, maybe this is our moment, friends, but it's time for us to rise up and not just keep watching what's going on. So, from Pastor Martin Niemöller, and this is not to instill fear, it's to help us to think through what is my role at this moment in time. It says, first they came for the communists, and I didn't speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I didn't speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I didn't speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. There are people issuing warnings that like this is our like we have to one of our parties is running away with our country, friends, and the people voting on the other side are not the enemy. The enemy is the big dudes with way too much money and power who are feeding us the information through our media and dividing us and teaching us that I hate you and you hate me and we can't stand together and we can't have a reasonable conversation about religion or politics, which is not politics, it's values. It is values. It is the things that are important for us raising kids and grandkids in this world. Like, what kind of world are they going to live in? Who are the people wandering in from places who aren't supposed to be here, who are going to be in our towns with our kids and our women? And like, this is not political. It is not political. Whoever told us it was political and we're not allowed to talk about it, I'm over it. We're not allowed to talk about it in our churches. Thank the Lord for the preachers who are out there with big enough kahunas to talk about who we should be voting for. Look them up. There's one called, one is called Who Would Jesus Vote For by Generations Church. There's another one that is a little more toned down. I'll have to share it on another day. Friends, it's time for us to respond. That's what I got for today. Have a blessed day.